Welcome to the What to Play podcast. I'm your host, Jacob. Lucas cannot be here this week because he is busy, but we've come up with a little bit of a schedule. Lucas will do the bigger shows, Super Bowl week, mock draft, draft weekend. That's kind of how we're going to try to roll this forward a little bit. So, smaller shows just be me. Bigger shows will be me and Lucas. So, just make sure you're aware of that. So, we get the holiday season. Hope everyone had a lovely Christmas and lovely holiday weekend. Or really midweek, not weekend at all. But let's begin with the stuff that happened a little before Christmas. Let's start with the Houston Texans. So Tank Dell suffered a nasty injury. It looked like one of the old school, if you've ever seen an old school Western with the horse carriages, it kind of looked like that. It had like a black tarp. It looked like the funeral cart, basically. But Tank Dell suffered a dislocated kneecap. So basically, his kneecap went from here, let's pretend this is my knee right here. Your kneecap's like this, went like that. So now it's all underneath. He also suffered tears, a torn ACL, MCL, and LCL. Now, when you tear a ligament, that takes roughly 9 months to heal back from the surgery. And then it takes about a year to get back to where you were. Or just about where you were. And for Tank Dell, he suffered 3 of those injuries. To the point that they're not even expecting him to play. He's expected to miss all, if not most, of the 2025 season. Which is very devastating. This is a guy who, the injuries, he suffered a broken fibula last year. This year, he suffered this kind of injury. It's just completely devastating. And you could see in the game against the Kansas City Chiefs how much emotion came off the sidelines, and then they were never able to get it back. They couldn't. There's nothing they could do. They just went complete into like a seated position and just sat there. They didn't know what else to do. They were almost in the fetal position in a way. They didn't know what to do anymore. You could see the emotion from C.J. Stroud. I mean, the relationship a quarterback has with his wide receivers, that's a special bond right there. But Stroud and Tank Dell have been of extremely good friends there. So it was devastating. It wasn't a shocker that after this game, the Texans made a choice and ended up claiming Deontay Johnson, who got waived by the Ravens. They ended up claiming him and adding him to the roster to take the Tank Dell spot. Now, Deontay Johnson did not play against the Ravens on Christmas Day, which we will get into a little bit later. But you need to bring somebody in. And the funniest part was people thought, oh, he's actually going to play. No. He got in the building on a Monday, and the game was a Wednesday. It's not going to happen. But that was too devastating. That was a devastating injury from Tank Dell. But now you got to somehow, you're in the playoffs. You have to find a way to deal with such. So bring in a Deontay Johnson, who's on his 3rd team this year. He was in Carolina, was in Baltimore for a hot minute, didn't do anything really in Baltimore. Now he finds his way into Houston. moving on to the city of brotherly love in Philadelphia. Let's talk Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley needs about a little over 260 yards to pass Eric Dickerson for the all-time record. A record that Eric Dickerson has held for 40 plus years. And it's very possible he gets it. His next two opponents are the Cowboys and the Giants. And it's going to be really tough, especially when you get closer and closer to a record. Those guys become, I can get an extra yard, I can get an extra 2. And that's what's going to happen. They're going to have to lean on Saquon even more now because of the injury to Jalen Hurts. In the game against the Washington Commanders on the 11th play of the game for the Eagles, Hurts is running and his head ends up slamming into the ground of the field, and he ends up getting concussed, taken off the field. In comes Kenny Pickett, and it's now being reported that Hurts is unlikely to play with a concussion, and it'll be Kenny Pickett's show. It was an obvious change that Pickett wasn't able to do the things that Jalen Hurts was capable of doing. So they're going to have to lean on Saquon more and hope that somehow they find a way to win this game or win even the next 2 games if Jalen Hurts cannot be able to go. Now, with the loss of Jalen Hurts, the Eagles ended up losing to Washington, eliminating San Francisco 49ers, the Dallas Cowboys, and the Arizona Cardinals. The Cowboys ended up playing the game against Tampa on Sunday Night Football and ended up winning that game. On Thursday, so just yesterday, I get a notification on my phone that says the Cowboys are shutting down CeeDee Lamb. And I'm not shocked by it. I'm more surprised it took this long. The injury to CeeDee Lamb was an AC joint in his shoulder. And every time you land on your shoulder, it's like, oh, there's like that. Like, normally you land and you don't think about how you're going to land. CD was having to think about how he was going to land because that's how much his shoulder was impaired, I guess. And you saw that a lot, and Saquon had an ankle issue a few years ago, and you could see he was very ginger with his cuts because he didn't want to injure himself. So these injuries do wrap up, especially when the year goes on. In the case of CD, every time he landed on his shoulder, he would come out for a couple plays because he had to try to get it to move around and ease off the pain a little bit. Because I've had a AC joint issue before. They're not fun. They're like shocks that go down your shoulder. And there's nothing you can do. You're trying to wiggle your hand. I would even bang my hand against a wall just to alleviate the pain somehow. To move the pain around. So instead of it being 100% in my shoulder, it's 50% here, 50% in my hand. I don't think CD was doing that per se. That's just what I was doing. And I had only a sprain. I don't even know exactly what CD Lamb had. But it was a big injury, enough that they said, we're going to shut him down. So when they were still playing for something, they weren't going to. But now they're no longer playing for anything. They chose to shut him down, which I understand. The Cowboys have also said that it won't require surgery, but also left a very broad interpretation of we don't know if it got worse or not, basically, because of they're saying it's not or it didn't, but why are you shutting him down? So it's a little broad for my liking. So a quick recap before we move on. We had talked about the Tank Dell injury, the Texans claiming Deontay Johnson, the Eagles, Saquon Barkley needing about 268 yards to break Eric Dickerson's record, Jalen Hurts being out with a concussion that resulted in the Eagles losing to the Commanders, which resulted in the Cowboys, Niners, Cardinals all being eliminated, which resulted in CeeDee Lamb being shut down for the year. Let's see what else we got. Okay, let's talk Michael Penix. So Michael Penix was the rookie quarterback who played for the Atlanta Falcons. Penix, that was his first start against the Giants. He did nice things. He didn't do terrible. And it's a pretty low bar. He became the sixth rookie quarterback to start a game this year. This was not the plan. Raheem Morris made that perfectly clear that the plan was Kirk Cousins through the whole season. But now you out of the playoffs. Kirk Cousins was struggling. The team was struggling. We need to make a move. What do we do? Alright, let's give the rookie a chance. Even though it's against the Giants, let's give him a chance. It worked out. Defense made some plays. Ended up having about 2 pick sixes. The interception he threw wasn't really his fault. It counts on his stats, his record. But it wasn't his fault if you actually watch the game. I thought he did well. I thought he saw the field very well. The biggest concern, I think, and it's not even a concern just for Penix, it's a concern for every rookie or any quarterback in general, is ball placement. Because you could see the ball get a little shaky at times, but otherwise it was really good. So he's got to keep working on that. Since he's a lefty, the ball's also going to go a little further away from a receiver, unless it's a ball on the right side going to the out. On the out route, that ball's always going away from the receiver. That ball's always going to go about a yard or two further away, either more sideways or further deep. But either way, it's going to make that receiver have to run further into the route or deeper into the route. Have to go a yard or two deeper. But other than that, I thought he did some nice things. I thought he moved well. He played well. His feet were good. He made sure his steps were right. He didn't look stressed in any way. But it helps when you play the Giants. When you play the Giants, a team that's at that time, I guess, 3-12, or actually 3-11, they're not going anywhere. So this is your chance to try some things out. So good job by the Falcons. I thought that was a good showing for Michael Penix to have his first career game. Now, you gotta play. You round out your year, essentially. You have your 2 games left. You got Washington, and then you got your rival game, which I believe is I believe it's Carolina, but it might be New Orleans. I'd have to double check on that. But I think that's also possible. They gotta try to hold on to this position now that they control their destiny in the division. Can they hold on to that? That's all gonna come in the next 2 weeks. Now, moving on to Christmas, specifically before we get into the recap portion of that, let's talk about what a few owners have said about Christmas. Now, the NFL has played on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day the last few years. This year, they played on Christmas Day, and this was on Netflix. They were going head-to-head with the NBA, and if the numbers that came out were true, that means the NFL actually dominated the NBA on Christmas Day, if those numbers are true. Jerry Jones, who's a business kind of guy, but he's also one of the more respected owners because he's been there, I guess, the longest. It's not really the best explanation. It's just what he is. Has said that the NFL is just going to play on Christmas Day no matter what day it is. And that's true. They will. Because some of these owners, well, not some, most, if not all, know if we can make money on a holiday and people are willing to watch our stuff, why wouldn't we take that chance? Why wouldn't we do it? I get it. I don't like it. But I understand it. So, on Christmas Day, you could expect that in the near future, games on Christmas Day. Let's go with games that happen on Christmas Day. Let's start with the Chiefs at Steelers. This game was brutal. The Chiefs scored 13 points in the first quarter, 0 in the second, 3 in the third, 13 in the fourth. At one point, before entering the fourth quarter, this game was 16-10, and then it got away from the Steelers in the fourth. Travis Kelce became the third tight end in history to have 1,000 receptions. Only Tony Gonzalez and Jason Witten have done that at the tight end position. So congratulations to Travis Kelce. This was a game that the Chiefs needed. Number one, they won their conference. Now they're the number one seed. But two, they won a game by more than a touchdown, 8 points. They actually won this one handily, winning the game, like I said, 29-10. You beat them by 19 against a playoff team. You'll take it. Now the Steelers are 10-6. They've lost 3 straight. They've had abysmal performances from the offense that they've created. Turnovers, misplays. Just not doing good enough things. That all needs to be addressed. It really does. It needs to be addressed fast if you want a chance in the playoffs. Because you got to go against these teams. You can't have an offense that scores 10 points and don't score in the first quarter or in the fourth quarter. Let's move on to the game that was at 4 o'clock, 4:30. Ravens at Texans. Ravens winning this game handily. And I mean handily. 31-2. That's right. The score was 31-2. 10 points from the Ravens in the first quarter. 7 points in the second quarter. 14 points in the third quarter. 0 points in the fourth quarter. The Texans only scored in the second quarter. 2 points. A safety. That's what they got. What a horrible, horrible performance in front of your fans. You can't do that. You can't put them through that. They came here on Christmas Day and you scored 2 points against a good team. a team that you played in the playoffs not that long ago, and you actually were competitive. You played them not that long ago. How many things can change? 31-2. What an abysmal performance by the Texans. Look at the numbers here. The numbers were Lamar Jackson, 168, 2 touchdowns. Derrick Henry, 27 carries, 147, a touchdown. Mark Andrews, 2 catches, 68 yards, a touchdown. Just reading the Ravens story, Mark Andrews averaged 34 yards a catch and 2 touchdowns, and a touchdown. Derrick Henry, if my math is mathing, averaged almost 6 yards a carry against the Texans. Now look at the Texans unit. CJ Stroud, 185 yards. Mixon, 9 carries, 26 yards. Nico Collins, 3 catches, 59 yards. That's not good. That is not good. That's a bad job by this offense. And if you really did want to blame Bobby Slowick, this was the game you could blame him. Because that was bad. That was not a good enough performance. And everyone knows it. And now you have to sit on a long week. You have 11 days to figure out where it went wrong. And it might just start at the top. Let's get into the games. We're going to start with the Cardinals-Rams. This game is... Actually, hang on. Let me make sure I got it. Okay, let's start with the Chargers-Patriots. Patriots getting plus 4.5 at home. Chargers in the cold. Patriots have played better. I don't like this offense in the Patriots. I don't think it's very consistent. I think the Chargers will find a way to win. And I was talking with Lucas on Christmas Day. I asked him, what do you think draft pick wise? What do you think you guys are going to do? And he said that he's thinking Travis Hunter and stuff like that. But he also said he wants to get rid of Gerard Mayo, defensive coordinator Covington, because of just how bad the offense and the team is. How they're just not connected. The Chargers on the other side are very connected. They play very well together. You can see, I keep saying this, Jesse Minter will be a head coach either this year or next year. He's that good. And I think they win, and they win handily. Give me the Chargers. They go on the road in frozen Foxborough and come out with a win, 31-10. Next up, Cardinals-Rams. This is on the triple header on Saturday. Cardinals at Rams. 6.5 point favorites for the Rams. The Cardinals, they're eliminated, but they can play spoiler. The Seattle Seahawks, who won yesterday against the Bears in a horrible game. It was awful. I watched. It was awful. They need this. They really do. They're a game back. They need the Cardinals to win. 47.5 is the over-under. Can the Cards win a game? I think they can. And they end up winning in a weird game, 31-28 Cardinals. Next up, Panthers, Buccaneers. Buccaneers favored by 8. Over-unders 48. The last time these two teams played, it was a close game. Give me the Panthers. They might not win, but they'll cover. Give me the Panthers. Panthers win 24-21. 21. Next up, Cowboys Eagles. This is 1 o'clock. This was at 4 o'clock. NFL flexed it out. Eagles favored by 7 has actually gone down. No Jalen Hurts. Kenny Pickett's the starter. CeeDee Lamb out for the rest of the year. Give me the Eagles. They win this game. I hate saying that, but they'll win this game. But I wonder how close this will be. So I leave it up to you guys. Predict the score. Cowboys versus Eagles. Eagles 7.5. I have Eagles winning, but what would the score actually be? Next up, Jets at Bills. Bills favored by 10. The Jets haven't gone anywhere. The over-under is 46. The last time these two teams played, it was a close game. Predict it's going to be a close game again. Aaron Rodgers has an MCL injury. He says he's playing. Give me the Bills. They win this game to cement themselves as the second seed. Winning it. Close game. 28-24. Next up. Lions at Niners. Monday Night Football. 50.5 is the over-under. 3.5 the Niners are getting. The last time that we saw the Niners play, they played the Dolphins and they looked uninspired. They just did. Give me the Lions. Even though they're beaten, battered, and bruised, and held with safety pins, glue, duct tape, and all kinds of other things that can hold something together. They win this game. They clinch the number 1 seed. Lions win 38-14. And that is it for the What to Play podcast. Let me know in the comments who you got winning this week. Also, the score for the Cowboys Eagles. I think it might be a little higher than expected. For What to Play podcast, I'm Jacob Hubert, and we will see you next week.